Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor Made. I'm so excited to be here on the Scrapbook.com YouTube channel for some Halloween in July inspiration. We love a good summerween, so we're gonna mix our Halloween products, some basics, and some summer theme products like the Sunkissed pattern collection. Something about this stripe pattern in the 6x8 and A2 size I just fell in love with and knew that I could adapt it for a pastel Halloween card. I'm also going to grab a couple colors in my Ranger Ink Tim Holtz Distress Spritz, but let's jump into stamping and coloring. I'm going to grab the little spooky house from the spooky stamp set and the Hi Friend sentiment from Trick or Treat, and I'm going to stamp those onto some mixed media paper. This is the A2 paper pad, and I just have a piece of white in here in my Misty, of course in the beautiful rose quartz color. And I'm going to stamp my spooky house in a alcohol marker friendly black ink, and I'll stamp my Hi Friend sentiment in VersaFine Onyx black ink. If you don't have Onyx black, you could use their Claire Nocturne as well. So I'm getting all two of my stamps ready with my Misty, and I'm using Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink because it is alcohol marker friendly to stamp my house. And I'm going to grab some of my Colorista art markers. These are alcohol markers from Spectrum Noir, and I'm going to color in this house. So that's why I'm making sure to use an alcohol marker friendly black ink. I do stamp it twice. That's the beauty of the Misty, to be able to stamp at the same spot, so I can get some nice, clean, crisp lines for my stamp, and then I will put that stamp away. I just cleaned it with some stamp cleaner and putting it right back into my packaging so I don't lose my stamps. Ask me how I know. So once I'm done with my house, let's jump over into stamping our sentiment. I like to just do all of my stamping at once so I can put my Misty away. So like I said, I'm going to use the Onyx Black VersaFine ink, and I like doing this ink for sentiments because I know I'm going to get a nice, clean, crisp image. I did stamp it twice to make sure it was really bold and popped off that white cardstock. So now that I'm done stamping, I'll put my Misty and my Stampendable away after, of course, I clean my stamp and get that put into the packaging as well. I'm going to grab some scissors and I'm just going to trim my house out and my Hi Friend sentiment so I can put this extra piece of white mixed media cardstock away and save it for a future project. Now we'll move into coloring. So like I said, going to grab those Colorista markers, but I want to make sure I pick colors that match the color scheme of the card. And like I said, that striped curvy paper just was really speaking to me for pastel Halloween. So I'm going to use that as my inspiration for color choices. And of course, it will also be on my card. I have my markers in one of my small storage bins. I just placed it in there so I can set them on my desk and not worry about them rolling around. And I'm going to choose markers that I think best match the colors on the stripes. So I'm using quite a few different colors from the Soft Tints collection, and then I'll also bring kind of a teal color from the Rich Shades. So definitely leaning into the pastel. I'm going to color in my house so it's pink. My windows are yellow, so it looks like somebody is home with the lights on. And I will bring in the teal color for the roof. I don't know why, I just think that color combination was really cute. There really isn't a teal on this paper, but I thought it matched that kind of minty green that we have going on in the stripes. I felt like it was close enough that this could feel like it was just a darker shade. After the first layer of color was put down, I did go back in with the pink and the teal to darken up some of the house areas just to give it a little dimension and shadow. You can definitely just continue layering the same color with alcohol markers until you're happy with the depth of color and feel that you're getting. After that, I brought in kind of a peachy tone to color in above the door and the steps of the house, and then a little bit of a light kind of teal color just to give my ghost a little bit of coloring, as well as a cute little pink cheek. Once I was done coloring, I'm going to go ahead and get out the coordinating dies. So again, there are dies that coordinate with the Spooky and Trick or Treat stamp set. So I'm getting Hi Friend from Trick or Treat and my Haunted House die from Spooky. Now, what's great also that I trim these down, they will easily run through my cute and adorable little scout in the rose quartz color. So let me get my mint tape so I can get my dies in place. I love the mint tape. It's repositionable in case I didn't get the die lined up perfectly. And you can also, of course, put it on the tape dispenser. And it's, like I said, repositionable and it doesn't tear your paper after you've run it through your die cut machine. So now that I have my two die cut pieces, I went ahead and put my Scout machine aside, and I'll go ahead and put my dies aside because those also tend to get lost. If you ever lose a die, make sure to check the bottom of your Misty. I have found quite a few stuck to my Misty before. So we're going to move on to now the black mixed media. I'm just pulling out a sheet of the A2 from my paper pad, and I'm going to do a little bit of spritzing with the new Tim Holtz Ranger Ink Distress Spritzes. I thought that the fossilized amber and wilted violet would match really well with the colors that I have on that pattern paper. So I started with just spraying some of that wilted violet on the black. I know it's kind of hard to see right now, but as it dries, it creates such a beautiful shine, especially in the right light. So I just took my heat embossing tool that has two settings, and I went with the lightest setting just to dry the paper without it being too hot. And I used a towel to pick up any excess ink, and then I repeat the same process with the fossilized amber. So I have both now purple that it and is yellow dry, or black will soon be dry. I'm going to apply some of the rub-ons. I grabbed the polka dots rub-on transfers in both black and white, and I'm going to use the black polka dots on my project. I wanted just to add in a little bit more pattern to my pattern paper, and I thought adding these black polka dots on top of the pastel striped paper would just make it maybe a little more Halloween-like. Just bring in more of that black. I love the pastel with the pops of black on this card. So I'm going to use my paper trimmer just to trim down this panel. It is a 6x8 panel, and I want it to be slightly larger than A2. There is a bit of a border around the design, so I want to make sure that my dots are larger, the area of my dots are larger than my A2 pattern paper. And I'll go ahead and I'm going to sandwich this paper in between the polka dots and the backing paper for the rub-ons. And I'm doing this so I can run it through my die cut machine. This time I have to grab my larger one. This is the Platinum 6 in the exclusive black color from Spellbinders for Scrapbook.com. Of course, we have our beautiful pink plates. So I put my sandwich together and I'm placing my backing to the rub-ons, my paper, and then my rub-ons. And I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine so it applies pressure to all of those tiny little dots onto my pattern paper without me having to rub every single one of those dots on. So I definitely think this hack is, or hack is such a funny word, this technique will help if you have a lot of little things that you want to apply pressure with onto a piece of paper. Now, if you have a few dots that didn't really transfer, you can use the scraper end of the Craft Pick Pro tool to apply some extra pressure to those little dots, or of course you could always use the popsicle stick that comes with the rub-ons. After I made sure that it looked like all of them had stuck to the paper, I just slowly peeled off that backing, and all of my polka dots are now on my pattern paper. There were a few that hung off the edge, so I'm just using my finger to go ahead and either rub them off or rub them so they stick to the back of the pattern paper. So I have my two layers and I want to think of a fun creative way to layer my black cardstock with my pattern paper. So I thought I would grab the nested A2 arches die set, and I'm going to use different sizes to cut my background. So I'm using the one of the larger ones, not the largest A2 size, but one down to cut the black paper. I'm also going to cut a arch through my pattern paper and then a smaller arch out of vellum. So here you can see all of the different layers that I have, and I'm going to grab my card base. This is a white card base that you can cut from Neenah Solar White Cardstock. I like top folding A2 cards, so that's what I have here. I'm going to use my tape runner. I really love the dotted tape runner to add adhesive to the back of my, I guess, negative piece of the arch from the polka dotted striped paper. Since it is A2 in size, it will fit perfectly on my card base. So I'm just laying that down onto my white base. And then next I'm going to add my black arch that has the distress spritz on there. Again, adding adhesive to the back. It will have a little bit of a divot in the center because of there being missing paper from the arch opening, but I'm going to layer more on top, so that's not going to be noticeable on the final project. The dotted adhesive roller is my favorite because it is repositionable for just a short amount of time. So if I don't get things lined up perfectly, it gives me a chance to try again. For the next layer, I'm bringing out the arch that I die cut out of the pattern paper, and I have some 2mm foam. These are the rounds, but I am using even the extra foam. There is no foam waste in this craft room to add backing to this arch, and I am centering it onto the black arch. So I have a really pretty kind of layered, matted arch vibe going on for this card. Now for the next layer, I wanted to layer on my house and sentiment, but I don't like doing busy on busy. My house is kind of busy, my pattern paper is kind of busy. So when I have a card where I need to layer busy on busy, adding a piece of vellum I feel just softens that a bit and allows the images to really pop off the busy background. So I'm going to use liquid adhesive to do this. You definitely could use your dotted runner. I just wanted to have the Artiste glue. So if I don't get my house perfectly centered onto my vellum piece of paper here, it gives me a chance to kind of use my thumbs to slide it in place so it feels and looks centered on the vellum arch. Once I have that in place, as you can see here, I'm scooching it over. But once I have that in place, I'll repeat that process for the high friend sentiment. So again, just adding that Artiste glue to the back of the cardstock and then adding that to the vellum. And the reason I'm adding these to the vellum before layering the next arch onto my card base is that I'm going to use foam adhesive to attach this, and I don't want any of my foam peeking out and you can see it through the vellum. So having areas to hide the foam adhesive behind the images and the sentiment helps when adding this onto the card. So I used a gel pen to add a few little highlights to my images just to give it a more cartoon feel. And now I am adding in that foam adhesive to the back. So I'm going to add a few pieces onto the sentiment and then also behind my spooky house. Once I have all the release paper peeled off, I'll go ahead and add that to the center of my arch. And that will finish off all of the different layers, but of course we need some pops of color. I was originally thinking of bringing in some more of that mint, but I just really liked the yellow. So I have sunshine and gloss pops of color, and I'm adding a few kind of in a diagonal so the card receiver's eyes go from the top left to the bottom right of the card. Now I like when my pops of color look more like an enamel dot, so I'm just tapping on the inside of the card to really kind of smooth out those pops of color so they look more like an enamel dot and less like a Hershey Kiss. Here's a final look at how my Halloween card turned out. You can see that shimmer in just the right light from the Tim Holtz Distress Spritz. I absolutely love using this summer paper for a Halloween card, and I hope that you had fun with me today celebrating Halloween in July. You can find the list of supplies from Scrapbook.com down below in the description box. And you can find more from me on my YouTube channel, Lauren Taylor Made. But I do hope you'll like and subscribe here at Scrapbook.com, where you can find the best selection, free inspiration, and they're always fast to ship. Bye!